Hi there, and welcome to this week's Hockey Inside Out show. The Canadiens kicked off their season with an exciting 1-0 win over the Toronto Maple Leafs Wednesday night at the Bell Centre, with Samuel Montembeault stopping all 48 shots he faced in his first start as the team's undisputed number one goalie. We'll talk about that and much more on this week's episode. I'm Stu Cowan of the Gazette, and I'm joined again this week by former Canadiens teammates and Stanley Cup champions Chris Nyland and Rick Green. Knuckles, I know you had a front row seat at the Bell Centre for the season opener. I saw you up there in the giant screen with a nice ovation from the fans. Rick, I know you're in Washington for an alumni event with the Capitals, and Canadiens fans will be happy to know you're wearing your Canadian Stanley Cup ring from 1986. If you want to flash it up there and show it off a little bit, why not?
Yeah, I have a few people that were calling me a lot of names back in the day, and I'm going to make sure they get a chance to see what the ring really looks like when you win.
All right, so Knuckles, you had the front row seat. What impressed you most and or disappointed you the most about the Canadiens' performance in the season opener?
I was actually in the second row, right next to the Leafs bench. I was in the second seat. My friend was sitting right next to the bench, and what impressed me most was the Jumbotron, because I had to watch the other end of the rink all for half the game, which I did. I was looking like this all the time. The first period, I was pretty much looking in front of me. The Habs were shooting there. The next two periods, my neck was stiff because they were down the other end the whole time. So it was incredible. Like, they could. The beginning of the third period, they could not get out of their zone for 4 or 5 minutes. And, it's funny, I was listening to a show last night, and they were saying how good they played in their end of the rink. I'm like, really? Like, hello? Listen, it's the first game of the season, but I think I hopped on this last time we talked about the Habs defensively. In their own end of the rink, they're really vulnerable. They are. And geez, great for Montembeault. A great start for him. He got tested all night. But if we see that same game in February and Montembeault in net, he ain't getting a shutout. He's going to be dead tired. So, they got to clean some things up that way. Great that they won. I'm happy for them. That's great. But don't kid yourselves.
Yeah, I know with Montembeault, heading into the season, I thought he's a legitimate, or can be a legitimate number one goalie. He definitely showed that last night. I mean, Rick, as former defenseman and former defense coach with the Canadiens, what was your take on that?
Well, let's face it. You're going to get into situations where you give up that many shots against, you're not going to win. And Montembeault, lucked out on a few occasions with pucks hitting the post. But bottom line here is, he made the save when he had to make it, but you're not going to win a lot of games if you're going to get into a situation where you're giving up real good quality chances against. Any game is going to be difficult to get a win. And, that's a positive. Montembeault did respond. He did get the job done. I actually did like what I saw on the power play with the puck movement. And, they seem to be making concentrated effort and trying to put a guy in the middle of the box, which does draw attention to the top penalty killers, in the box. But, I thought overall it was a good effort, but they're not going to have a lot of fun down the long season when they got into a situation where they're giving up that much against. And, as Knuckles said, the defensive zone play has to get straightened up to the point where they can't give up, prime time scoring chances like they've been doing and expect to win.
Yeah, the power play looked good. I mean, there were a lot of movement, a lot of good zone entries. The 5-on-3 they had for a minute and 34 seconds, though, was like, I think they made about 200 passes and had one shot on goal. I don't understand how they don't shoot more in that. David Savard was saying after the game that, a lot of shots, but they kept a lot of them to the outside. He was with Lane Hutson. Rick, what did you think about Hutson? I know he played 2 games last season, but thrown into the fire here in game 1.
I got to give this kid full marks. I mean, the composure, that he's showing in all situations, and he's not afraid to just get involved and do what he does best. And the kid's got great smarts. If you watch when he has the puck, how he's looking around and trying to make good decisions with the puck, just great. And this is a talent that doesn't come very often. It's just going to continue to get better. And on the negative side, if you will, obviously is the defensive zone play, which with time he's going to have to understand how he has to approach that with his size, that he's going to have to fine tune his ability to defend. And but bottom line here is he's a great talent. He's got great potential to be a big part of the offensive part of the game. He's always involved. He's always looking to jump in there, and a very, very intelligent player. So we're going to see a lot of great things from this guy.
Was there somebody else who caught your eye, Knuckles, during the game?
With Hutson?
Hutson or anybody else?
Yeah, listen, I like that little guy. He can move with the puck. It's funny. He looks like he's trapped, and then all of a sudden he creates that separation. He's so quick and elusive. He's fun to watch. Now, what caught my eye?
That little head fake he has is really something.
Yeah, it's really good. I think just overall for me was, there were times that when they had the puck and they were attacking the zone, they looked okay. The power play, the 5-on-3, they overpass. I think that happens a lot of times. Mm-hmm. But if one of those passes does get through, I mean, you got to give the Leafs credit. They really killed it well. But, one of those passes get through the seam there, those pucks end up in the net like Caulfield's goal, right? But it didn't happen. Yeah. I guess one thing that caught my eye, they weren't good in the faceoff circle.
Yeah.
33%.
Eating Nick Suzuki pretty clean much of the night.
Yeah. So, they get the first game of the season. Mm-hmm. I worry about the defensive zone play. I had last year, what I say last week, I think 17 games, they had 5 goals or more scored against them.
Yeah.
I know they got to try and score goals 5-on-5, but when they do that, they often give up a lot of good opportunities. They take some risk, and it ends up back in their end, and then they can't get out.
And I wonder.
Sorry, go ahead, Rick.
No, I was just going to say, I thought the defense were pretty disciplined in their play and their decisions in trying to help out offensively. They didn't do a lot of high risk stuff by trying to get chased down behind the offensive zone net and getting caught. And that is different from what we've seen from them before, when the defense were always cheating on the offensive side. But I think overall, they're a little more intelligent in their selection of, okay, when it's time to jump in there, I'll jump in, and I'll get out of there when it's time to get out of there. And I thought overall that, they didn't give a lot of odd man rushes because they didn't force a lot of things offensively and get themselves caught. So,
well, when they did last night, they had that third forward high, and that's key. You can't play that system unless that third forward's high. It's great to pinch and keep pucks in, but if that guy is not high, you're done.
And it's very unusual that you can trust a forward to do that.
You've said that
where you can stop it.
Well, one forward that I thought could be trusted in the season opener was Alex Barry-Boulet. He really impressed me in both ends of the ice. He made a couple of big defensive plays late in the game when the Leafs were pressing. We're taping the show before the Canadians played in Boston in Game 2. They start the season, Leafs, Bruins back-to-back. Knuckles, you lived in Boston, from Boston. Which is the bigger rivalry, you think, now? Habs, Bruins, or Habs, Leafs?
I don't think either one of them are. I mean, probably the Leafs, I guess. The Bruins, we never see the Bruins anymore. Well, they play tonight, and then I think we see them like April 1st or something. It's like crazy. You don't see them all season. So, and they haven't played in the playoffs, so it kind of wanes. It dissipates the intensity of the rivalry. So, that can be lit up like a match in no time. But going in there tonight, man, they got some big defensemen. I hope the Canadians are able to, take advantage of the power play tonight when they get them, because they're going to have to. 5-on-5, it's not going to be easy to score goals in Boston, believe me. Their defense is so big. Man, it could be a tough go in there tonight.
Well, Big D, I thought in the season opener, I thought Arber Xhekaj played one of his best games in the NHL. He looked really good out there. He was solid.
Yeah, he belongs.
I was hoping that he would, tone down his physical play from the standpoint
stop.
Physical play from doing things that he shouldn't be doing.
Stop.
Like things that you used to do, Nux. That
go play in Russia.
You could get away with. You could get away with.
Go play in the big rink.
But this is a new.
Tone it down, Arber. Tone it down.
This is a new era now. You can't get away with the stuff you got.
We can tell you moved to what town is that you live in? Bay Durfee. We can tell you moved to Bay Durfee. Come on, I'm still from Verdun. Let's go.
But yeah.
Tone it down.
I know he's your buddy, and you have him over for dinner all the time, and you get him.
I love him.
You get him to take you out, and buy you dinner all the time. I know that. But listen, he's there's never been a question.
He can play. He can play. He doesn't.
Yes, he can.
Ryan Reeves is with the Leafs for one reason.
Yeah.
And I don't even think he's that good anymore at fighting, but Arber Xhekaj can play, and Reeves didn't want to go with him.
That's right.
So Xhekaj went right at him.
You want him in the lineup, and to play within his capabilities. He's very, very effective. And
way to go, Arber!
Great kid, as Knuckles would say.
I know Marty St. Louis had some tough decisions to make before the season. Last season, the old Armia was sent down to Laval. There's other things, but this season was Joshua Roy and Logan Mailloux both going down to Laval, while they keep Kapanen, Heineman, and Barry Boulay. Knuckles, were you surprised by that? Was it the right move? What do you think?
Maybe Mailloux a bit, but I think he'll be back up. Come on, there's one thing you can count on in this league: injuries. And I'm sure he'll be back up, both of them at some point. But they wanted to get that Heineman impressed in camp, and so and the other kid. So you got to make room for those guys, and there's the room. So I would think at some point they'll be back up, but like I said, injuries, and guys are going to have a tough time at times during the season, and when they do, you're going to have to maybe make a call up, and those will be the first two guys probably.
Yeah, and you get into the numbers crunch, right? There's some guys that are maybe deserving of having a little more time in the big league, but they can't do it. And other guys, cross that line of saying they're the one that's going to get the job. And if you look at the stats, Kapanen and Heineman, these guys had great camps preseason. They left an impression that they were deserving of getting a chance to play at the NHL level. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to stay there, but it does give them a vote of confidence, saying, yeah. They produced. They showed some good things. They're good kids. They're young. They bring a lot of energy, and there's tremendous upside with these kids. And they're going to see what they do when they get the opportunity to play. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, I wonder if it was a bit of a surprise for Joshua Roy, because going into camp, Marty St. Louis had him on the second power play unit, had him on a third line. This is a kid who number one overall pick in the Quebec Junior League a few years ago, and then didn't really perform, realized he had to do more work off the ice, and this is maybe, I don't know if a wake-up call, but maybe I don't know if took it for granted a little bit, maybe, that he was going to make the team. But with Mailloux, I think it's also a case, Barron would have had to clear waivers. I think if that wasn't the case, I think Mailloux, I thought they'd keep Mailloux just because they might want to look at him to see if he is indeed ready to play in the NHL for a few games before they would send him down. But it's a numbers game, right? It's I know, Knuckles, you spent a little time in the AHL when you started your career. How did that help you, or what are your memories there about playing your time in the AHL?
Well, thank God Rick wasn't the GM or the coach. I would have never get called up because I was fighting a lot, like almost every night, like 304 minutes and 49 games. Let's go.
And you won every
Where'd this kid learn how to fight? College? No. On the street. And I took it right onto the ice. And yeah, listen, my 49 games there, I fought. And I didn't come in thinking, I'm going to be a fighter. I did come in and I wanted to play physical. But once I fought Glenn Cochran that first fight, I was on a 5-game tryout for $200 a game, mind you. And I cut him open. I had a contract 2 weeks later. I mean, they called me the next day, but I didn't have an agent. It took me 2 weeks to find an agent. But anyway, those 49 games, I ended up playing with Rick Maha. And you know what a good player Rick was. He was in the minors with the Habs for 3 years. He couldn't get called up because they were so good, right? And then he goes off and plays in St. Louis and rips it up. But I played with Rick. I ended up with 15 goals and 10 assists in those 49 games. So I showed the Habs I could kind of play hockey, not just fight. And that's how I got my opportunity. But I was put with some very good players to be able to, watch out for them. Like Rick, he wasn't a big guy. I watched out for him, and in turn, he watched out for me and gave me a couple tap-in goals, baby.
I know there were a couple of guys down there who were calling you college boy, right? The Knuckles. They didn't
Dave Allison.
They didn't realize your Boston background.
Yeah. Hey, college kid. They thought I was a wet noodle.
Rick, you went right. Sorry, go ahead, Rick.
I was just going to say, Mayu, here's an example of a guy that needs to play a lot. He needs to play in all situations. I like him, but I think he needs to understand how to play the defensive part of the game. He's always wanting to get involved, which is not a bad thing, but I think he has to mature a little bit as far as picking his spots. But tremendous upside with him, good talent. We haven't seen the last of him.
I know Rick, number 1 overall pick in the draft, back in Washington, visiting some of your old teammates right now. But when you look back in hindsight, would some time in the AHL maybe have helped you as opposed to getting thrown right into the NHL?
Well, the Washington Capitals of the 70s were AHL players. So, it wouldn't have made a difference because we were brutal. And like I always say, everybody asked me how I learned how to play defense. I said, well, I never got out of my end zone for every shift that I played back in the 70s. So hindsight, you're a young kid, you want to play, you do what you do best and try and bring it every night. And, as Nuck knows, where the cards fall, timing, all that stuff comes into the picture. But the bottom line is you want to be involved. You want to do the best you can do. And that's what I did with a horrible team. And I'm seeing a few of my old teammates going, oh, geez, I was trying to forget about you. But now that I see you, I really remember how bad you were.
You should have shown up to camp the first year with a Bible, though. You would have been all set.
Yeah, I found it the other day. I had a quick look at it. Yeah.
Well, I mentioned earlier, Yoel Armia, last season started the season in Laval. Now he finds himself on the second line with Kirby Dach and Alex Newhook on the second power play unit. Rick, I know he's your favorite guy, but I'll go to Knuckles first here. Knuckles, do you think he deserves that, or what can we expect from Yoel Armia this season?
Yeah, you know what? I like him putting him there. Honestly, it's the coach saying, listen, I'm going to show some faith in you. Go out there and play. Play the way you can play. I'm sure he had a talk with him. I thought he was okay last night on Mia. He was the times he was down my end in front of me, I saw him on the puck. He was getting in the corners. He had a couple of shots. Like, that's what you got to see from him. Killing penalties. Like, come on. He can do those things. The thing with this guy, you got to stay on him all the time. Listen, he's one of those guys that if you're on him and he's playing his game, he can help your team. If you as a coach, if you let him go to sleep, well, that's your problem now. And I think he said, listen, I want to see something from you this year. I'm going to put you up there, and you're going to stay there until you take some NyQuil.
Rick, what were your thoughts?
Hey, you know what? He got his game going at the latter part of last year, and everybody talked about him as being, wow, what a good player. And he's a talented guy when he wants to be involved, and hopefully he'll stay involved because he can complement whoever he plays with, because he's got the skills, he's got the size, and now it's like bring it every night. And I know that was a concern when we saw him early in the year last year, that he didn't bring it every night. But hopefully he's come to realize he's deserving of a chance to play there. And now it's entirely up to him how he responds and how he can contribute, because he has the ability.
Contract year for him. How big is that? Two former players, you guys. How big is it going into a contract year? Does that make a difference? Do you get more motivated, or how do you deal with that?
Well, for me,
I never thought of it.
Yeah. For me,
it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It didn't matter back then. I think it does a little more now, because, contract year, you have a big year and you're a free agent, he'll be a free agent. He can go where he wants. Well, there's always someone out there that's willing to take a chance on a guy, so he has a big year. Do they re-sign him at that money? Which I'm not sure they would, but back in our day, it was like, it didn't matter. You have a contract year, and you have a good year, well, that can help you. But basically, when we were playing, here's your contract. If you don't like it, see you later.
Rick, what was your signing bonus as a number 1 overall pick?
I got $25,000 that I spent half of it on my new Corvette. And
I got $2,500.
That's too much. That was too much.
Yeah, I spent half of it on a suit. No.
Well, you always look good, Knuckles. You look good.
Tip top.
You look good there last night at the Bell Center too, sitting second row. Sorry, not first row, with your nice jacket on and your Canadiens pin. Nice to see him. It was nice to see the ovation, or hear the ovation from the fans at the Bell Center.
Yeah, I was looking at my phone. Actually, at the beginning, I didn't realize. My friend texted me, my buddy. He said, "When the hell are they going to get out of their end?" He was up the other end of the rink, and he texted me, "When the hell are they going to get out of their end?" And I'm like, I was answering him. I said, "I don't know. I hope they come up this way where I was."
Well, they did get out of their end a bit, and they did win their season opener, so a good start for the Canadiens to the season. That's it for this week's Hockey Inside Out show. We'll be back with a new show next week. In the meantime, please make sure you like and subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel. Go to MontrealGazette.com/newsletters to sign up for the Hockey Inside Out newsletter. And of course, go to HockeyInsideOut.com every day for all the latest Canadiens news. Also, I want to say a special hello to all the fans in town for this weekend's Hockey Inside Out Fan Summit. Hope you all have a great time, and I'll see you around 2 p.m. Saturday afternoon at Hurley's Irish Pub before the game for a little meet and greet and a charity auction for the Montreal Canadiens Children's Foundation. All Canadiens fans are welcome there. Hurley's Irish Pub on Crescent Street. Anyway, we'll see you all back here again next week for another Hockey Inside Out show. Hope you all have a great day.